Hello, and welcome to Every Day is Earth Day, the podcast. I'm your host, Fiona, and today I am really curious to know if you were not being paid for the job you currently have or jobs, if there was no money involved, would you continue to do what you do? And why is that? Again, this is a pretty interesting question, and maybe you've never looked at it, and maybe it's not applicable. Maybe you've already turned this recording off and you don't even hear me saying this. However, I'm really curious to know, in the world, how many people, if they were not being paid, if money was not involved, if money was not part of the equation and part of the transaction or part of the creation and generation, would you still choose to do what you're currently doing? Would you do that job if it was totally free and no money was involved? I've been curious in asking this question with the recent events in the United States where the government is quote unquote shut down, where the government is not working. And the effect has been many people in the United States aren't going to work because the government has said don't go to work. And there are even some people that have been requested to work, but they're not going to be paid, which is an interesting scenario, right? And when I was listening to the news talk about the government shutdown and, how it's affecting people and who's not receiving money and who's going to receive back pay and who's not going to receive back pay, I really was curious. For many of these jobs, if you truly, truly love the job and it didn't matter whether you went or not and you were paid or not, would you still show up and do that job? Would you do your research? Would you contribute to other people? Would you show up and continue? Do you love it that much to keep going? And what would the world be like if it was so different and that money, the way money is now, the way it is right now, currency in exchange for your talent and your time and your efforts and your joy, if it's even there. I mean, maybe you still aren't even happy with your job. Even if the money's good or even if the money's bad, you might just be like, no, I hate working, period. And there's no joy there. So that's a whole nother conversation as well. Yeah. So if all the money went away tomorrow, or if your boss said, hey, we're no longer going to pay you, but you can still come and participate. I know it's a strange question. And yet, really, if you were not being paid, if you were not being given money, and there was another way to take care of all of the requirements, right? Like food and rent, or, if you didn't even have to worry about rent, right? Let's just say the whole monetary system, changed. What would you be doing? What would you engage in? What would light you up? What would spark joy? What activities, what creations, what generations would really speak to you? And if you weren't being paid for what you're currently doing every day, would you still do it? Would you still be that life coach? Would you still be that gardener, that farmer, that cook, that chef, that nanny, that mother, that, stay-at-home mom? Yeah, you guys don't get paid. And what else is possible? Maybe all of you need to be paid. and all the other jobs don't have the economic value. All the teachers, right? Like, teachers, would you teach if you weren't being paid? So, just my curiosity. Interesting point of view. I have that point of view. So, today, I wonder, if you were not being paid for what you do every day, would you still do it? Because every day is Earth Day. Thank you for joining me.